Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good day, everyone. Welcome, talented NSMO students, to new lesson in ecology chapter. Today we move from understanding energy flow to the greatest secret of life continuity, cycling of matter. This lesson is part of phase 1 in biology and represents the step before the final lesson. Today we explore how doesn't Earth run out of resources even though life consumes them consistently. We're still in ecology chapter. Put your mind, if energy flows, matter cycles, and that concept is key to understand sustainability. This is your instructor Muhammad Al Ali, and I welcome you back. So, we have completed interactions and energy flows, and today we place a check on cycling of matter, and this is the check. Today's lesson is cycling of matter, and it's more important than it appears. Matter is neither created nor destroyed. It transforms and returns. This lecture addresses three areas: biosphere, cycles, ecological succession, and terrestrial versus aquatic biomass. And also, we will see how Earth recovers after fire or volcano, called ecological succession. We start with water cycle, the first source of life, moving from oceans to sky to land and back. Evaporation lead to condensation, lead to precipitation, lead to runoff, and the cycle repeats. Let's see the clip.
Look at the science of rain and how raindrops form. First, we'll need the sun. When the sun shines on water on the Earth's surface, the heat of the sun warms the water, turning it into an invisible gas called water vapor. This process, the changing of water into a gas, is called evaporation. Because gases are lighter than liquids, water vapor rises up into the sky. And the further you move up and away from the Earth's surface, the colder the temperature gets. So in the sky, the water vapor cools and changes back into tiny water droplets. This change is called condensation and is the opposite of evaporation. Clouds are made up of tiny water droplets, so when condensation occurs in the sky, clouds form and grow. Let's take a closer look. When water droplets bump into one another, they stick together and grow in size. They continue to grow until they are too heavy and fall as rain. They even grow as they bump into one another on their journey from the cloud to the ground. And every single raindrop that reaches the ground is made up of 1 million of the original tiny water droplets. Raindrops fall on the ground surface where the sun can shine on them, and the whole process happens again. This is called the water cycle and keeps water moving from the ground to the sky, providing the water needed for plants, animals and people to survive. So now you know.
The second example of recycling processes in the ecosystem is carbon cycle. So, the carbon cycle explains how carbon moves continuously through the atmosphere, living organisms, soil, and fossil fuels. Okay, and let's talk about 5 steps about carbon cycle. Okay, so let's talk about the first one. It's photosynthesis by producer here. Okay, so plants absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and use cellulose to make food glucose. This is the first one. Okay, let's move to the second step, or step number 2. This is number 2, carbon fixation by consumers. So animals obtain carbon when they eat plants or other animals. This is the second step. The third step, plant and animal respiration. here and here. So both plants and animals return carbon dioxide to the atmosphere through respiration. This is the step number 3, as we said. Let me write it down here, 3. And step number 4, decombustion. That's it. So when organisms dies, decomposers break them down and release carbon into the soil and atmosphere. Look here, it's released. Number 5, fossils, fuels, and combustion. This is 5 here. Some carbon becomes fossil fuels when humans burn them fuels, as you see here. Carbon dioxide returns to the atmosphere. So the key idea here, the carbon cycles keeps life in balance by recycling carbon, but human actions can disrupt this balance. The third example that we have is nitrogen cycle. So why nitrogen matters? Because nitrogen is an essential element that plants need to build proteins. Although nitrogen gas is abundant in the atmosphere, plants cannot use it directly. Okay, so nitrogen cycle, we have 5 steps also. The first one, it's nitrogen fixation. So in nitrogen fixation, bacteria in the soil convert nitrogen gas into usable forms for plants. Step 2, absorption by plants. So plants take in nitrogen components to grow and build tissues. Step 3, passing through the food chain. Animals obtain nitrogen by eating plants or plant-eating animals. Step 4, decombustion returns. So nitrogen to soil. When organisms die, decomposer breaks them down and return nitrogen to the soil. Step 5, denitrification. Some bacteria convert nitrogen back to gas, returning it to the atmosphere. So the key message here, the nitrogen cycle ensures that nitrogen is recycled and remains available for living organisms. Okay, and there will be a short video that explains this cycle in a deeper and visual way. So focus on the main idea now.
To plants. For it to become plant available, we need the help of bacteria. Various species of bacteria eat atmospheric nitrogen and poop out ammonium. This gets eaten by other kinds of bacteria, which poop out nitrite, which gets eaten by yet another kind of bacteria, which poops out nitrate. All of these forms of nitrogen are available for plants, especially nitrate, which is the easiest for plants to use. Plants can take this up directly if it is near their roots, but they most often rely on strands of fungi that attach to their roots and bring nutrients to them in exchange for the sugars and carbohydrates the plant roots exude. Dead plant material is also rich in nitrogen and gets brought down with the help of worms, whose poop is a delicacy among nitrifying bacteria. Some of the ways nitrogen exits the soil is when the crop is harvested, when water carries it away, or when it becomes gaseous and returns to the atmosphere. Or if the soil lacks oxygen, different anaerobic bacteria grow, which convert nitrates back into atmospheric nitrogen. Notice that these things only happen with loose nitrogen in the soil, not with nitrogen inside organisms.
Now we move to ecological succession, how life begins again after destruction. Okay guys, here we have scientific term primary succession. So primary succession occurs when life begins in an area where no soil exists. So this is very important. No soil exists, such as after a volcanic eruption. Okay. Secondary succession, that one here, occurs when a biological community is destroyed but soil remains, like after forest fire. So the big difference between first primary and secondary, here there is no soil, no soil, but here the soil is existed, it remains. That's the most important difference between them. Leading species. The first species to appear in primary succession and prepare the environment for others, such as lichens and mousses. So, leading species, it's related to primary succession. Climax community. Climax community, that one, is a stable and mature biological community that changes very little over time. Okay, and we have weather. Weather is the condition of the atmosphere in a specific place and at the specific time. So, specific place and specific time. Okay, and we have climate. The big difference between climate and weather, the climate measure the average weather. So it's the average weather conditions in region over a long period of time. Okay, and the time is for a long period. And we have ozone here. It's a protective layer in the atmosphere that absorbs harmful ultraviolet radiation. So succession shows nature's ability to rebuild and restore balance over time. What's the differences between primary and secondary succession? So let's talk first about primary succession, and let's walk through the stages shown in the image step by step. And we have here the first step. It's bare rock. So the process begins on bare rock with no soil and no living organisms. Moving to stage number 2, arrivals of lichens, pioneer species. So lichens are the first pioneer species. They break down rock to help form the first thin layer of soil. Stage number 3, small plants and lichens. Small annual plants start growing along with lichens as thin soil develops. Stage number 4, it's grasses and perennialize more soil forms, allowing grasses and long-living plants to grow. Stage number 5, so grasses, shrubs, and shade-intolerant trees, intermediate species, and shrubs and trees that need sunlight begins to grow like pine trees. And stage number 6, climax community, mature forest. A stable forest forms containing shade-tolerant trees such as oak and hickory. In short, primary succession is a slow journey from bare rocks to a mature forest. On the other hand, we have secondary succession, and this process starts after a disturbance where soil still exists. And we have 5 stages. First stages, it's like both of these: fire and disturbance. A fire or storm destroys the existing community, but the soil remains. Moving to second stage, grass and perennials. It takes from 1 to 2 years. Grasses and small plants grow quickly because seeds and roots are already in the soil. Stage number 3, grass, shrubs, and young trees. It takes from 3 to 4 years. Shrubs and young trees such as a pine begin to appear. Stage number 4, intermediate species. It takes from 5 to 150 years. More plant diversity appears. Trees that love sunlight grow first, followed by others. Stage number 5, Climax community. It's more than 150 years. A stable meteor forest forms again with oak and hickory trees. In summary, secondary succession is faster because the soil is already present. So terrestrial biomass and aquatic ecosystem. Biomass, a large region classified mainly by temperature and precipitation and vegetation. So precipitation, it's mean areas with high rainfall support forest. Very low rainfall creates desert. Temperature, cold regions like tundra have a limited life while warm tropical areas have rich biodiversity. Vegetation, it's a plan to reflect on the condition, grasslands, forests, deserts, each indicate a unique biome. On the map, each color represents a biome distributed across the board. Terrestrial biomes include rainforest, temperate forest, taiga, savannas, desert, tundra, and more. Okay? And each biome represents unique plants and animals perfectly adapted to the environment. Let's talk about aquatic ecosystem. So aquatic ecosystem include environments where organisms live in water instead of land. And it has marine waters. These include oceans and seas. They contain salty water and rich biodiversity like coral, reefs, and fish. And we have transitional waters where fresh water meets salt water, such as estuaries. They serve as nurseries for many fish. Nurseries for many fish. And we have freshwater, includes river, lakes, and streams, supports organisms that cannot live in salty water. Let's test our knowledge. The question asks, which of the following represent the beginning of primary succession? Okay? It usually begins with pioneer species like lichens that can grow on bare rock. Okay, let's have the options and let's analyze them. First, lichens growing on cold volcanic lava. And this is true. Yes, that's right. Because this is a clear case of primary succession. No soil, just a new volcanic rock. B. Forest area developed for grasslands. This is wrong because this occurred on existing soil. So it represents secondary succession, not the primary. C. A new plant species growing in floodplain. And this wrong. Why it's wrong? Because flooding does not remove the soil completely. So this is not primary succession. Move to trees growing after a forest fire. Fire destroyed plants but leaves the soil. This is secondary succession. So the right answer, lichens growing on cold volcanic lava. And remember, primary, it's no soil. Secondary, soil exists. Another question. What explains that low numbers of animal species living in the fast-flowing river? The main idea, not all animals are adapted to survive in fast-moving water. It requires specific adaptation. So let's analyze the options. First, cold water reduces dissolved oxygen levels. That one is incorrect. Why it's incorrect? Because cold water actually holds more oxygen, not less. And B. Strong currents prevent the accumulation of most organic matter. Also that one is not true. But it is like partly true because strong currents reduce food accumulation, but it's not the main limiting factor. Okay, what about C? Few animals are adapted to withstand high-speed water. That is right. Why this is right? Because only a few species have bodies or behaviors that allow them to stay anchored and not be swept away. And D, why it's wrong? Surface water reflects sunlight away from autotrophic organisms because sunlight still reaches autotrophs in fast flowing rivers. So the right answer is C. Okay, and remember, fast water is few species, only specialized survival. Okay, let's move on to another question. So the question asks, which of the following options represent renewable resources? And renewable resources are those that can be naturally replaced in short period of time, such as trees, water, and wind. And let's see the picture. We have coal. So coal takes millions of years to form, so it is non-renewable. And we have soil. So you regenerate very slowly, so it's limited and not considered highly renewable. And we have trees. Trees can replant and renewed. And we have mineral like or metal. Minerals do not renew quickly and cannot be replaced within human time. So now it's obviously the right answer would be not A, because one, it contains coal only. So the right answer is 2 and 3. Because 2 and 3, soil renews slowly and trees renew well. Think crops fits renewable resource at the best. Okay, so the right answer, as we said, 2 and 3. And if nature can replace if the nature can replace it quickly, so that's called renewable. In this lesson, we understood how Earth recycles matter continuously, and we learned the difference between primary and secondary succession and how nature recovers, and we explored terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems and how life adapts to each. Thank you for your engagement. You are the generation that will design smarter solutions to protect our planet. Ecology is not just knowledge, it is a responsibility. We look forward to seeing you in the next lecture, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.